book that grabbed you somewhere?
Back in the sequel, when you get a chance to work with people that you've ever seen the story.
I like that.
Also writing books, and being involved in the story, being involved in the movie. It helps the fans see
In the fall of 2000, Left Behind the movie took the public by storm. This film, based on the first book of the phenomenally popular best-selling series by Tim LaHaye and Jerry B. Jenkins, was the sleeper hit of the year and gained international acclaim. This apocalyptic end-times thriller based on the book of Revelation depicts the rapture, the first sign of the fulfillment of end-time prophecy. Left Behind is filled with vivid images of the rapture and the chaos that occurs as millions of people around the world simply disappear. It also introduces us to a memorable cast of characters such as Buck Williams, Chloe and Rayford Steele, Pastor Bruce Barnes, Hattie Durham, and of course, the Antichrist himself, Nikolai Carpathia. Left Behind the movie focuses on the rapture and its immediate aftermath, and Tribulation Force picks up 1 week later. Hello, I'm Bob Carlisle, and welcome to a look behind the scenes of Left Behind 2, Tribulation Force. During this program, you'll learn more about this exciting sequel and its journey from page to screen. We'll hear from many of the people working behind the scenes, as well as all your favorite stars.
I think the challenge of dramatizing this for a group of people who are maybe not necessarily the choir that we're preaching to in terms of the Christians, but other people who will enjoy this as a piece of good storytelling. And that really has been my focus throughout this thing, because there's no challenge in reiterating the story simply as it is in the book, unless I can reach and touch other people and have other people go, gee whiz, you know, the Bible is a pretty exciting source of stories. It's an exciting place to be, and maybe I can use that as a vehicle for creating better and more meaningful stories for people.
People keep asking, oh, how is Left Behind compared to Tribulation Force or vice versa? And it's such a difficult question to answer. You think, oh, it's a sequel, it's going to be exactly the same, just the same sort of story, and it's not. Left Behind dealt with these huge climatic events on a very large world scale. Tribulation Force deals with that scale, but it's much more a personal story. It's much more concentrated on characters. And really, you know, anyone has amazing stories, and these are great stories of people in heroic circumstances. And so we wanted to get to the heart of the characters and to really look at their personal struggles and to look at how that affects them and the world around them, and what four small people in the grand scheme of things can do on a world stage. And so in that way, I think Tribulation Force is much more powerful, it's much more personal, it's much more intimate, yet still has those great moments.
You know, a large part of the appeal of the Left Behind book series has been its characters. The incredible cast of Left Behind the movie brought these characters to life on the big screen. Fortunately, they were all eager to return for the sequel.
On Left Behind the movie, it was a very challenging shoot. And so the cast really had to pull together and work hard to pull off what we were trying to pull off. And so we got to be pretty close, and we got to work together very well. And so I was hoping that the whole cast would come back. And that was one of the main factors that really closed the whole deal for me, knowing that the cast would be strong and that we'd be able to build on what we had already started in the first movie.
I think it helps for the fans, you know, to see, you know, the same faces, because it was hard enough for the fans to go from the book and have these characters in their mind, and then, you know, to say, okay, these are the characters, and then if you were to switch them all up again, I think that would be really, really rough on the fans. So
It's like making soup or stew. Everybody is, you know, is a different ingredient, and it really adds some spice in their own way to it.
It was fun seeing everybody. I come from so much series work, so I like that element, that family element.
I chose to come back for the sequel for the same reasons I chose to do Left Behind, really. It was a good script, and I like the character of Hattie, and I was excited about the cast coming back, the original cast coming back, and for the same reason I also like the book. So you get involved in the story, you get involved with the characters, and you want to see what happens next. And so it was fun to continue the story.
I think the most challenging aspect of filming Tribulation Force and bringing it to life is bringing the characters to life. This is a movie that is based upon these characters going through incredible traumatic experiences. And to bring that off without, having a book to say this is what they're thinking inside their heads is very difficult. It's one of the reasons that we chose Bill Corcoran, because he works very well with actors. He works extremely well with bringing out the inner conflicts, the inner idiosyncrasies of the character, and making it seem very honest and very real, so that everyone will say, yes, this feels like a real character.
I'm very lucky in that I've been in the film business for a few years, and I've got a lot of very trusted people around me, people like Michael Story, the cameraman, and Harold Thrasher, the designer. So they were key in me pulling together a team of people to make this movie, to understand the necessary respect that we all have for the material, the respect that we needed to give the actors for their performances, and for creating a vision in the movie that was a post-apocalyptic vision, but provided with a Christian base and a kind of struggle by our tribulation force to fight against what was going on, or what is going on in our movie.
Finding the right locations and creating realistic sets were an important part of helping to achieve this dark and frightening vision of the world after the rapture. Tribulation Force, like Left Behind, was filmed entirely on location in Toronto, Canada, which presented some interesting challenges for both the location manager and the set designer.
The basic need is you break down geography in the show. And most of this takes place in Chicago. It's all present day. Some of it is centered in New York, around the UN. And the big problem piece in the production is Jerusalem, and the Wailing Wall and the Temple Mount. And those are things that you end up having to treat totally differently than you're treating the rest of the picture.
Harold and I went through the script, and one of the amazing delights all the time with somebody like Harold is I showed him a picture this big in a book that I bought and said, "What do you think, Harold? Could we make this?" And he said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And he made the Wailing Wall out of that picture.
One of the big elements we had to include, well, obviously, is the Wailing Wall. And the thing that fascinated me about it was there's plants, weeds that grow out of it for reasons I don't understand. And looking over 15 years of research on the Wailing Wall, different pictures taken at different times, the same plants are always there. So that'd be kind of a giggle to fit those in, because it was something that marks it as a distinct place.
It just kept growing and mushrooming and getting bigger and better every time I looked at it. It's almost unbelievable to me that you can take a little photograph and 6 weeks later it's built in a studio. We had 20-foot ceilings and a 95-foot wall. And when we put in the green screen and finished doing all of our work with it, it will look like the Wailing Wall.
There was another picture that we stumbled across, also from one of Bill's books, I think, which was of the steps going up to the Temple Mount.
The Temple Mount scene originally was written as a scene that took place in the foyer of a hotel in Israel. And I just said, gee whiz, we can't have this film be a claustrophobic, closed-in film. We have to open it up. We have to find something that publicly says this is an important, maybe the most important event in the film. I wanted to set it in some place that had both a spiritual and a geographic and physical resonance for the people who will watch this film, but for the whole world. We all know what is going on in Jerusalem at this point in time, and it was a terrific opportunity to build something, to know that we could layer it with green screen and later put in the Temple Mount itself, perhaps a piece of Israel and Jerusalem characters in there, and then to turn around on the other angle and make our group of 500 people look like 5,000 or 10,000 people, again by using green screen techniques that I've used before to multiply the masses and the crowd and make it look like a much bigger scene, therefore giving it hopefully much more weight, much more scope in doing it.